Trauma Therapist Podcast Plus listeners can listen to episodes early and ad-free right now. Become a Plus listener by going to Apple Podcasts, searching for the Trauma Therapist Podcast, and signing up today. All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. Here we go. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Zina Ortiz. Zina, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy, for having me.
You are very welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Glad you're here. So Zina Ortiz is a childhood trauma survivor. Her experiences of chronic neglect, physical, mental, and sexual abuse have provided her with a unique opportunity to embark on a personal journey of healing. Zina is the founder of Elephant in the Room group psychotherapy practice. Through her healing and her transformative process, she's gained a profound understanding of the complexities and far-reaching impacts of trauma, as well as the incredible power of healing. She specializes in the treatment of complex trauma, anxiety, and depression. And without shaming, blaming, or minimizing the main challenge, Zina's goals as a psychotherapist are based on the belief that people want to be happy, effective, and successful in their lives, and they have within themselves the resources to achieve these goals. Zina, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So before we get going, Zina, share with our listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
I am originally from Mexico. I was born and raised in a small town close to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. And I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 19 years old, many months ago. And I have been living in the States for over 30 years. I completed my education and my training here in the U.S., and I now have situated myself in the beautiful state of Colorado, and that's where I have founded my practice, Elephant in the Room, LLC.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So in the bio, obviously we touched upon some things. How did all this start for you? Share your story.
It is a marvelous story. I was a chronically degraded. I have experienced a great deal of neglect in my early childhood, and my parents weren't equipped to raise children, and was left in my crib to cry for a whole day. And my mother went to work and left me home alone in my crib as a newborn.
Oh my God.
So I wasn't properly socialized. And it's sometimes very evident and obvious in my conversations with people. And so some things have remained, even though I have done tremendous deal of work. But I was always fascinated, and I've always been fascinated by people. And it attracted me how they interact and how we respond and react. And I was actually very curious about my peers and how they interacted with each other, because I felt like an outsider. Like, I don't have that skill. I want to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I became the little Lucy in my neighborhood, and I will invite my friends to come and tell me their stories. And I have been in a psychotherapist since I was 8 years old. So I can say that I've been in practice most of my life. And so that's how my interest in people and the way they communicate and the way that they play this dance with one another. And there's this beautiful interaction between one person and the other, even during conflict. It's amazing. I'm fascinated by it. So then later on, I just knew that I wasn't going to stay where I lived in my town in Mexico. And I kept thinking to myself, I have to get out of here. And I thought I was fooled by the idea that once I left, I was going to be okay from the after effects of neglect and childhood abuse. but boy, that I was wrong with that. I was escaping my own trauma. And
let me pause here for a second. So
yes.
you kind of started talking about your idea of kind of getting out of town, but before that, as a young kid, how were you having experienced all this stuff? I mean, as a 12-year-old kid, 13, 14, 15, 16, how did you show up in the world?
Dissociated. I was not aware that I was dissociated, although I knew that there was something that was disturbing inside me. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I did like any other trauma survivor or any other trauma victim at the time. I thought I can just shove it down. I can shove my feelings down the chute, and I just need to think. And that's the only valuable thing about me. I almost felt like a robot. And I talked about it in my blog, posted on my website. I felt like a robot with a set of thoughts, but no emotion. I didn't see the need for emotions. None of it was helping me in a moment. I was barely surviving as a child. And
did you have siblings?
I did. I do. And so as the oldest child, I was the one responsible for them. So as a parentified child on top of that. And it was a stressful environment. I knew it wasn't serving me in any positive way. And I didn't know what I was going to do with all the suffering and the disturbing emotions. Just because I shoved them down doesn't mean that I didn't experience it. Of course I did. But my only resource and my only way of resolving them was to dissociate from them or to disconnect. And so one of the things that, my experiences with dissociation, we go far back, way back. We're very good friends. And because I understand the mechanics of dissociation, I'm well equipped to help people and support them in the healing, because trauma and dissociation, they're like very good amigos. Mm-hmm. they play together well.
Okay. So you, at some point, decided that you wanted to leave.
Yes.
Right before this. I mean, was at any time along this journey as a young kid, did you get therapy? Did you get any kind of help?
I did receive therapy when I was in my late adolescent years, but I didn't understand it. I didn't see the point in talking about these things. I didn't find relief. It was nice to talk about these things, but I thought, well, I can talk about it with my friends, even though the stories were horrifying to them, and I saw their reaction. So that was another way in which I had this idea that shoving them down was best. And later in my life, in my mid-20s, I decided I can't live with this. Just because I'm not in it doesn't mean they're not in me. Mm-hmm. And so then I started to pursue psychotherapy and getting help for myself, because these things were overwhelming me. I mean, they were pervasive in my everyday experience. Anxiety was the way in which my neurobiology was letting me know that there was something in me that wasn't resolved, that needed my attention. And so during the course of treatment, and I always wanted to be a psychotherapist, by the way, that was my dream. And I knew I couldn't accomplish living in Mexico. My parents weren't supportive of this idea. And so my plan was that once I immigrate to the States, that I will pursue the education. And I did in my mid-20s. As I was completing my education, I also pursued psychotherapy. Wow. Little did I know that during my graduate studies, in the beginning of my graduate studies, my first child passed away.
Oh, and, my God.
And then I'm at peace with it. And it was a horrific experience. She was a victim of a murder. And so that was an additional, that was an event that prompted for me to pursue psychotherapy be more consistent about psychotherapy. It prompted me to accelerate my own treatment.
If I may, how old was your daughter?
She was 18.
When she died?
Yes.
Oh my God. Zina, let me just pause here. You know, you're incredible. I mean, Jesus Christ, you come on here and you have this horrific background, but look at you. I mean, you've got this amazing presence, genuineness about you, and I say genuine because it's clear that, you're not trying to sugarcoat anything, you're feeling what's happened. And, it's really something to be able to have a podcast where someone like you comes on, and are able and willing to share your story.
Yes.
And you're helping other people, which we will get to, but I just want to say that.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Man. Okay. So you've decided to become a therapist. You're head on. What happens? What do you do?
So during the course of treatment, and my psychotherapist at the time was all about cognitive behavioral, and it was about sharing the story, and those things helped. But I thought something was missing. There was something that I wasn't being included, and it was the things that I was dissociated from that weren't being included in treatment. So during I decided I have to change this for myself and for, my own practice as a clinician, that I needed to learn a new way of resolving these internal discomforts, resolving the anxiety, resolving these things that were haunting me, because it did feel like a haunting. It did feel like an assault at me in the middle of the day when nothing was going on. And so then I pursued trainings. Even after my graduation, I continued to pursue trainings, EMDR, sensory-motor psychotherapy, so many modalities. I think I have a whole list of them on my website. I think I learned them all because I wanted to find a solution for me.
Well, you said you felt something with the cognitive behavioral therapy, you felt something wasn't being addressed. What was that element that you felt wasn't being addressed?
The sensations, the things in my body that bubbled to the surface and exploded like volcano in the middle of a place that didn't render. It wasn't asking for that reaction. I felt the feelings were so exaggerated. My reactions were out of control that I needed to find a way to resolve them, because what I was doing wasn't working. Disconnecting from them wasn't resolving them. It was that I felt this accumulation of sensations bubbling up inside of me, and they exploded in the most inappropriate way and the most inopportune time. And so I made it my personal mission in my career, in my profession, and in my personal treatment to pursue trainings that effectively addressed these symptoms. And so I tried one, and it wasn't just the training, it was also the treatment that I pursued, because I wanted to feel what it was like and what it was going to feel for the other person as I work with them. So it was a holistic with a W, healing myself, healing the other, and also learning. So it was that combined experience that I think I got the whole thing.
So you started seeking somatic treatment, somatic therapies, and did they help you? Did you find some resolve there, some healing?
Yes,
you did.
And of course, Guy, there's no such thing as being done.
Right.
Right? We can be 90 years old, and we can still be, and we're constantly in a place of evolution, in a state of evolution, in a state of becoming. I don't believe that we're ever done. And that's has been my journey so far, is that I continue to work. I still continue with therapy, to continue with my own treatment, as there's always something to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And this one thing that I do practice with my clients, and I don't teach the management of sensations or symptoms, and my clients certainly are not a cluster of symptoms. They're real people with real stories, such as myself. And it is the resolution of things. It is the resolution of trauma experiences one at a time. And of course, as mind heals, there also happens that we have this experience like dominoes where one falls and it drops the other. And then sometimes these traumatic experiences they're in their own discrete experience that only that one is healed. So it's both. But the psyche, you see, unconscious is I like to describe it as big and wide and deep. There's so many things to do.
So let's talk about the genesis of Elephant in the Room. And I love that name. So Elephant in the Room is a group psychotherapy practice that you founded. At what point did you found this and why?
When I moved to Colorado, I think it was 2012. Back in that day, I was looking for a state that had a good enough economy to develop a new business, to grow a business from scratch. I was living on the West Coast, and I've been a gypsy for most of my life. and as soon as I obtained my licensure back in 2012, 2013, I had this vision, this goal of one day teaching clinicians how to work with trauma. Because I had been working on it for myself, I thought, I gotta share this. And I'm only one. And I like healing people. I love to see breakthroughs. I like to see the faces in people as they have their own breakthroughs and their own resolution experiences. And so Elephant in the Room was an idea that was developed back in 2014 with the goal and the vision to one day open a group practice, which I just started last year, by the way. I'm very excited about that. My clinicians are directly being trained by me, and they are taught by me, and they can see that, one can achieve a good enough sense of healing experience that is not overwhelming, that I'm okay in spite of everything that happened in the past. It's okay. I can still make it. It doesn't, and just because those things happen, it hasn't killed my spirit, and it doesn't have to kill anyone's spirit.
Did it take you, just if I may interject, and I want to continue talking about Elephant in the Room, but how long did it take you to get to that point where you could say, you know what, despite all this horrible stuff that happened, I'm okay. I'm okay. And believe that. Because that's a hard place to get to, I think, for a lot of us.
Yes. Well, and the kind of work that I have done, I have done a great deal of treatments. I can say that it's been on and off. It took me 5 years. I was attending therapy weekly. I was on a mission. I have to, if it's my life's mission to get these things addressed, hey, this is not bad. This is pretty good. I'm in the field. And the advantage that I have is that I am exposed to other professionals who also look for the same thing, who also look to heal others. Yeah, and we share those experiences, and we share knowledge, and following on the steps of bigger professionals. Then that's what I have been enjoying so far. And it hasn't been just the healing. It has been the experience of learning all of a great deal of skill sets, if that makes sense.
So you get to Colorado, you decide you wanted to found Elephant in the Room. And the initial goal there was what? To create an individual practice, or did you want to create a group practice?
A group practice. Okay. I wanted to share, and sharing the knowledge, sharing the experience of achieving a good enough healing experience That was my goal. And that continues to be my goal into the present. I'm excited about that.
And you folks focus on what specifically? To walk us through.
Specifically in complex trauma and attachment wounds. And these things can only be healed in relationship and within the context of a healthy relationship. And that I believe it can exist between a patient and its psychotherapist.
So let's, if we can here, and I realize everyone's different, every situation is different, but when you begin working with a client, what do you do? And I want to kind of get at here, because you're a unique person. We're all unique. What do you bring to that relationship, do you feel, from your experience?
Presence. I think the number one, the secret sauce to helping people heal is relationship. It's very simple. And we utilize so many techniques, but without the relationship, these things don't work.
And what does that mean? Let's break that down a little bit. What does that mean, the relationship? I know how we define that, but for you in that context, what does that mean?
That's a very good question, because I didn't know that when I was a kid. I believe that it's active listening and hearing stories. One of the things that I adore about my profession is hearing stories. And people really want to be heard. It's very simple. It's not complicated. People want to be heard. They want to be validated. They want to hear that one is being listened and the other is hearing their experiences. And it's about being human in the company of another human being who has come so far and traveled miles just to get to where we are here in my humble office. It's pretty remarkable that people do make it. People do survive horrific events, horrific experiences, and they make the time to be here, to be heard, to be seen, to be witnessed. That's it. It's just being witnessed.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about your experience, your lengthy experience with therapy for yourself, and all the work you've done, both in learning and in treatment and healing for yourself. But when you first started seeing clients, right? I mean, there compared to now, there must have been some arc of learning for yourself, of experience. What was it like when you first started seeing clients?
Ooh, it was pretty nervous. It was I had a lot of fears, and I think this is very common in newly licensed psychotherapists or people who are pursuing this career in the helping professions. The fear is that we're going to cause more damage than anything else, but that's not really true. And just learning the basic skills of connecting. And there's a rhythm. And I believe when one is sat in front of another individual, there is this delicate dance, like the dance that I used to observe as a child, in seeing two human beings connecting with one another and playing that dance, this back and forward of energy, movement with words, and casting spells over each other as we exchange ideas and cause visions to occur inside of us. It's pretty magical. And that was my first, those were my first fears. And as I learned along the way that talk therapy wasn't working for me, then it was actively looking for ways to resolve it inside me so that I can then help somebody else also resolve these internal mechanisms.
When you, among the therapists that you've seen, can you talk about an experience you had, an initial experience you had where you were like, oh my God, this is different? or, this is what it's about. Okay, now I feel it. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. There has been many breakthroughs, but the most significant one that I can recall at this time was my training with Saj Rasby, which I believe you have had interviews with. And that was with psychedelic medicine, which is a service that we also provide and support. And so that was the most significant training and healing experience that I had. I had a huge breakthrough. I became aware that I was still dissociated, and the high value of being a witness to oneself. I believe that was the biggest learning experience I've had, as well as a learning experience and also breakthrough experience. That was the hugest leap I've ever had. And also with other treatments like sensory motor psychotherapy, somatic experiencing, and EMDR, I had breakthroughs too. Mm-hmm. Not to diminish the value of these trainings, but this one was different. It was something that was so deeply rooted that I couldn't reach without the medicine. Mm. There was something in me that I felt still needed addressing and needed my attention that I couldn't reach without the medicine. Once I learned how to use the medicine, then I get it. I understand it. I can almost describe it with images, or I can paint it mm-hmm. to convey the message.
As a result of that experience, you then went on to learn how to implement that psychedelics yourself?
Yes. Wow. Yes. Wow. And I combined them with sure. other treatment modalities supported with medicine. Not that, and it is not my intention to say that psychedelics is the magic cure. It's not. Because of course, like I expressed to you earlier in this conversation, is that we're creatures that are in a constant state of becoming, of evolution. Mm. And so I don't believe that I'm done, but I certainly became aware of more stuff, and I was able to address more things in a shorter amount of time.
Wow. All right. So, elephant in the room. That's at elephantintheroommllc.com. We'll have that linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. So do you offer one-on-one therapy, group therapy, online? What do you offer?
Both, all three things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At this time, we are formulating circle groups using medicine too, but with microdosing with ketamine. We're in the process of developing that program. But for now, we offer one-on-one in person and one-on-one via telehealth.
Awesome. So as we kind of wind down here, Zina, what is the best way, aside from your website, what is the best way for people to contact you?
You can contact us through our email address, zina@elephantintheroommllc.com, or call us at our phone number 720-310-6713. And we have available space. Our clinicians are hungry for work as they are looking to implement the techniques that I teach.
Awesome. Zina, you're so amazing. You really are inspiring. Love to have you back at a later date. And
I'll be delighted too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.